Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here at the finals. Okay, so as you guys know, every speaker is supposed to keep their maximum except when they're talking. Each speaker has 5 minutes, and the first speaker is 5, the second and last speaker 4 minutes. First and last minute are protected, and you raise your pretty information in between your introductions. Right? And I think that's it. There are no more questions, there are no more things you want to ask.
The debate today shouldn't be about whether or not we should allow medical cannabis in Rwanda, but rather about whether or not it's a good idea and what effects will it have. The team that takes the debate today is the team that shows greater chances of a developed Rwanda, both socially and economically. The scope of the debate today is, has Rwanda made a good decision in growing medical cannabis? This has supposed the planting of medical cannabis in Rwanda. Have the keyword support, which is to agree with and give encouragement. We have planting, which is to put in the ground so that it can grow. We have cannabis, which is a psychoactive drug from the cannabis plant used primarily for medical or recreational purposes. We have Rwanda, which is a landlocked country in the Great Rift Valley, and medical cannabis, which is the cannabis prescribed by the physicians for their patients. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take you back in time. Now coffee and tea are the best exports in Rwanda. Rwanda earned $90.5 million US from tea exports in 2018, which is a 7.4% increase from 2017. Over the same period, coffee accounted for 68.7 million USD worth of exports, which is a 7.2% increase from the previous year, ladies and gentlemen. And though Rwanda's export volume increased by 42.8%, revenues from exports grew only 6.1%, as said by the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning. And it could have grown over 6.1%, as it usually does. Now, coffee revenues decreased from $69 million US to $68 million US from 2018 to 2019. Now we can see that our best exports are starting to fail, and once we don't work on it, Rwanda is leading to an economic depression, ladies and gentlemen. We have poaching. What is poaching? Poaching is the illegal practice of trespassing on one another's property to hunt or steal game without the landowner's permission. After the 1994 genocide, the returning refugees swept into the country's biggest national park with the herds of cattle, and they carried out the last lions and some other animals. But right now, the Akadila is attracting more tourists, has substantially reduced the poaching, and involves more villagers in conservation. And now, tourism is the country's leading foreign exchange earner, with total revenues estimated at $438 million US of 2017, ladies and gentlemen. How did Rwanda do this to substantially reduce the poaching? For Rwanda to reduce the poaching, created a team of conservationists to sensitize the community around the park and show them of what impacts the parks are and how beneficial it can be. And also there are harsh practitioners that were also there for the people who used to trespass. And now, Rwanda has a Vision 2020. And yes, it achieved most of the things. But what's funny is we really never enjoyed 2020 as we used due to the pandemic. So far, Rwanda has lost $48 million US in cancelled meetings, plus 212 million revenue taxes in just only 2 months, not including the number of the people who lost their jobs and the other closed businesses. And this making Rwanda have a big depression that really has to fight and get out. Now we still have the pandemic on, but the economy is reopened, ladies and gentlemen. Now there has been a big decision made on Monday of October on 12th, and it's where the cabinet meeting approved the guideline that allowed the growing of the medical cannabis in Rwanda. And this is what we are debating today, ladies and gentlemen. Some know it as cannabis, and the world's most popular drug, as the highest value therapeutic crop known at the moment. Cannabis is estimated to a value of $47.7 million US per 1 kilometer square, ladies and gentlemen. And from the UN, this goes from the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, as well as the UN World Drug Reports. And the point of flash today is medical cannabis, which is produced in Rwanda, will solely be for export markets. And unless the opposition the opposition proved to us how it won't be for export markets. They wanted the debate, ladies and gentlemen. And as our support, this is how we are going to do it. We have a plan. We are going to adopt the method used by the government of Rwanda to fight the poaching that was there and build a spirit of conservation within the people around where the garden of cannabis Council, please. How? We have the Ministry of Health teach and show the bad effects of using cannabis as a drug. And this will be done on a monthly basis. And the Ministry of Health will still have an evaluation after every year, ladies and gentlemen. When we start this will start from when the cannabis will start to be grown. And what's the mechanism, ladies and gentlemen? The mechanism is we find a safer place to grow away from the city. And we'll face the gardens and deploy an army to protect the place. And the army will be trained after the time to us to make sure that they are not the one consuming this. Everyone working at this site will have to be tested for drug use to make sure that they won't use it. And we'll put the police during fighting unit checking randomly every month in nearby places to track drug hiders or anything related. And after harvesting, we'll prepare safe houses to keep before exporting it so that it will be safe, ladies and gentlemen. And grown medical cannabis will have better impacts, and will help Rwanda recover from its losses, since the cannabis global market is valued at the $345 billion according to the analyst New Frontier data, ladies and gentlemen. And before I raise my case, I want to ask I want to give this to the opposition. If they don't agree with the medical cannabis being planted in Rwanda, what therefore Rwanda to come out of its huge losses brought about by the pandemic, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you. I raise my case. POI allowed, please. Okay. Make sure the right qualifications.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. During the high-level conference on drug abuse among Rwanda youth that convened in Kigali in 2011, statistics provided by the Ministry of Youth showed that 22.6% of mental diseases victims admitted at Ndela Hospital are the drug abuse related. So, before blaming this thing of plantation of cannabis, there must be a reduction of the drug abuse, and it is being shown that in 2004 the number of cases stood at 68, while in 2009 victims of drug abuse who are admitted at the hospital are 440, which clearly marks an increase in drug abuse case. Also in 2014, case stood at 1,100. This is showing how drug abuse is increasing. So first, as the negative side, we think that the plantation of cannabis is not to be done now, but before they must just reduce that drug abuse, and they must show how they are sure that those military they are going to use to protect the cannabis are not going to take the corruption, because it has shown that many countries that legalized cannabis, plantation of cannabis, it increased the rate of corruption in them, where they started the sale of cannabis in other sectors which were not prepared. And also, according to NRC, Rwanda National Rehabilitation Services, says that Iwawa Rehabilitation Center receives 4,000 youths every year, and 90% of them are drug addicts, and still 20% of the rehabilitated youth ends up going back. So, first of all, they must reduce that drug abuse before planting cannabis. And also, they also say that tourism is also the best income, is the best revenue, the income earner nowadays. Why can't we just be basing on tourism and just deal with that drug abuse before accepting the plantation of cannabis? And also, this is showing how the plantation of cannabis will negatively affect the nation if there will be no measures first we put on to reduce that drug abuse. And also, I want to ask them what ensures them that those private investors planting cannabis are not going to be corrupted and sell cannabis in illegal ways. And also, I want to ask them what's the difference between medical cannabis and cannabis. If there is any difference between that, they will tell us. Yes.
Okay, my first question is information, why did you get the private investors? And the second, I wanted to ask you, you said that the tourism, is why indeed you have to focus on the tourism.
Yes.
But you told me that the pandemic is still on, so the tourism sector is going to be going on.
Thank you, I've had your question, but I tell you that tourism has, it's open, it's now in action, and it has not affected by pandemic. It has not highly affected by pandemic because it's still moving
by
on.
the tourism.
Thank you, I rest my case.
Thank you very much. I'm Kezia Farabeza from the proposition side. And first of all, before I go far, I would like to talk about what the first speaker from the opposition side said. First of all, you're talking about we have this problem of drug abuse. But first of all, to make things clear, we are not talking about the cannabis as a drug. We are talking about medical cannabis, as in how it is being said in the motion. And you've asked the difference between cannabis and medical cannabis. Like for medical cannabis, it will be legalized and it will only be used for medical purposes. But for cannabis, it won't be used in Rwanda. And another thing you're asking us, like how do we ensure the protection? But first of all, I'll tell you that we'll put safer places from the city. We'll fence gardens, plus we'll deploy army to protect the place and make sure they'll not use it. We'll put drug fighting units, and after harvesting, we'll prepare safe houses before anything denied. Planting cannabis is a good idea because, as you have seen, cannabis is going to help Rwanda recover from its losses from the COVID-19 as the $48 million which were lost in the meeting. And first of all, cannabis will not cause any harm because it will be planted by only people who have license from RDB, and hence this will make the government be aware of those who have the permission. And nextly, how is it going to benefit our country? First of all, from UN drug reports estimated that cannabis from 1 kilometer squared, it is going to give $47.7 million. So if we really work on this, it means that our profits will even increase from this to $95.4 million in just 1 month. And this is a huge profit. It is going to improve other economic activities, which will raise other things. Accepted, yes?
Can you please specifically tell us where cannabis is going to be grown?
Thank you very much. Cannabis, it is going to be grown in an area which is not really densely populated, like in Nyagatare. We have more land which is not used, and that land will be used to cover all that. Yeah, and so as I conclude, accepted.
Could you tell the condition of cannabis to be grown?
Condition.
Who's going to grow it? Is it the government or private sector?
Thank you very much. Private sectors will just give money to the government, won't just plant it, you just invest and the profits will be given back. So it's only the government which is going to use people with skills, physicians, to plant it. Thank you very much. And any questions? Okay, yeah. So I still have time. And another thing, you're talking about corruption and everything. But the reason why we are just saying that it's the government, it is because we can't just trust anyone. So that is why the government itself, it is going to be the one doing this. Hence, corruption that you're talking about won't exist, and drug abuse and everything. Yeah. So you're saying that why can't we even invest in tourism? But still, yes, everything is back to normal, but still that loss can't be covered. That is why we are investing in this. We are going to plant medical cannabis. And for your own information, medical cannabis is produced in Rwanda, will be solely for exports. Mark this, for exports. Denied. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Second speaker from the opposition side. I'm very sad with the government that's putting money first, ignoring its citizens, its youth. I'm the first speaker giving a statistic of the 50 or more than 50% of people being consuming drugs, and this is a large number of people that is being affected by this drug. Imagine the government is going to take cannabis, like it's going to cultivate cannabis in the country. Why? Like I would like to ask the government, like, people have been managing to bring cannabis from outside and closing the borders, closing the airport, closing where there's a tight security. Imagine when cannabis is going to be planted in the country. What's going to happen to those people? They're going to invest their money. Like, let me give you a case study of the Lesotho country, which is the first country in Africa that cultivated this cannabis. Where the Lesotho government, the South African government, where it planted this, and after a short time, there have been a 16% increase in drug abuse in urban areas and a 12% of drug abuse in rural areas. And this information got from World Health Organization. This shows that how has been a great drug abuse increase in this society, which has been a problem for the government to handle this. And also in Lesotho, the Lesotho government just legalized this first time in Africa. And after investing this, people started using corruption and mismanagement, which led to people just trying to cultivate this. And the Lesotho government, after 2 years, found itself like not able to recognize all kind of licenses that are being in the country, which has been a problem for Lesotho to handle it. Till now, they're still fighting for the consequences they have been doing for it. So, dear children, what is the government going to do for us? Imagine the 50%, more than 50% of the youth consuming this drug when it's not in the country. Imagine when they're going to bring this cannabis in the country. What is going to happen next? Maybe we should find ourselves even having 90% of the youth consuming this cannabis. So, where is the manpower of future country? Where is our future country going to be? Or if we lose our manpower this way, what is going to happen to our country? Like, if in case we want to lose money, like, we want to lose our people and that's invest money. Like, this 47 million they're talking about, this kind of people that we could be serving at this place could help us and even more than this. We could also do this. We as the opposition said, we don't say that the government is making a bad
point of information.
But what we're doing is just saying, like, the government should first tackle this problem, the drug abuse, which is in the status quo, and later on, after tackling this and bring it at least on, let's take 10% of the situation. That's when you can allow the government to just plant it. Because we know actually this is going to happen. And like the issue they're talking about this cannabis going to be grown in Africa. Like, we know petrol is one of the things that has been investing a lot of money. But now petrol is facing problems because it's not being exported as it has been exported. So what is going to happen to cannabis? Let's give an opportunity to do this which is coming back. We are also bringing back agriculture, and the economy is just being reopened as going back in life. So why could we not offer the opportunity for the status quo to just like try to reduce the drug abuse, and later on we come back, because money is going to be found back. Money is not going to end in earth. So money is going to be there anytime. So I don't know what is going to happen. And also the propositions that we give us about to show the better just to as the opposition said, we give this this population we're going to save are going to be the manpower of our future country, which is going to help our country to develop, which is the first burden we're going to go on after it. And also they gave us a burden of if no cannabis, what is going to happen? Tourism is there, agriculture is there, and everything is there. So that is not for us to just that is not for us to survive for that. And also they're asking us about the Nyagatali sector. I asked the listening speaker here, Nyagatali cannot be a speakable area to cultivate all these cannabis, because cannabis to be grown needs to have at least 24 to 30 degrees Celsius. What is going to happen to Nyagatali? Nyagatali does never have those measurements in its system. So what is going to happen to Nyagatali? It means like the government itself doesn't know what it's going to do. And also, the also said the private sector. How are they going to convince the private sector to just invest money? Wait, to give money to government. What's going to happen? Like, how should they manage the money? Why should not invest in tourism or any other sector? Should they?
Okay. Thank you. My name is Doreen, third speaker from the proposition side for the motion that states that this House supports the planting of medical cannabis in Rwanda. Well, dear judges, for the second speaker from the opposition side, talked so much about South Africa that he forgot that we are in Rwanda. Rwanda has been ranked among the top 10 countries that have the efficient policemen in Africa. Now, and Rwanda is ranked among the top 5 countries in Africa that fought corruption at a high percentage. Then I don't understand why they don't trust this government that solved the corruption to fight against the people that who might try to steal cannabis from the industries. Whereas my first speaker clearly explained that we have CCTV cameras, we have the police patrol, we are going to do random drug tests to the people nearby. I don't understand that. And he also talked about this side also brought up about the tourism. As for now, due to the pandemic, tourism and hotels are ranked as the first sector to be affected by the pandemic in Rwanda. And their judges, they did not also tell us what they're planning exactly to do with the tourism sector. Are they going to introduce new hotels? What are they going to exactly to do with this sector? Did I please? And their first speaker also talked about how the mental illness in 2K11 were due to the drug abuse. But dear judges, we all know that cannabis is not the only drug that teenagers consume nowadays. They're heroin and cocaine. And also, he talked about private investors. They asked us they talked about something about private investors. How do we know they're not going to take corruption? And my second speaker and first speaker clearly stated that the private investors, what they're going to do is give money to the government, and then the government will plant. The government is the only one that's going to control the plantation. Denied, please. And they also asked us, why did my second speaker answer Nyagatare that Nyagatare does not have the climatic conditions that are necessary to plant cannabis? Let me tell you that Nyagatare is one of the many places that the government of Rwanda might suggest. Yet, we also have greenhouses, and cannabis can literally grow efficiently under greenhouses that might be put at a place where we find that the climatic conditions do not qualify with the growing of cannabis. Thank you very much. And we also shown you that the best Rwandan exports like that, those are coffee and tea. They are failing nowadays. And yet we've shown you this is where the government used to get our money. They're only talking about tourism industry. Yet tourism industry also gains 438 million as an income to Rwanda. Yet our cannabis, as seen by the New Times, is estimated to be giving Rwanda $345 billion US. That was said by the chief of RDB. The New Times wrote that. Denied, please. They also talked about something related to drug abuse. They also talked about something related to drug abuse in Rwanda that is in the status quo. That is a problem in the status quo, and we should solve that instead of bringing cannabis. But I'm telling you, do you ever watch news? Like currently, there is this advertisement that says rubyiruko mwirinda gukoresha ibiyobyabwenge muri iki gihe cya pandemic. That shows clearly that we have a solution to this problem that they're bringing on the table. The measures and policies that they're being implemented, the solution is there. We have the police that takes people that have found this problem to Iwawa and any other places, rehabilitation centers, to be helped. So the solution to the status quo is there. And they also talked about how this cannabis that we're bringing in Rwanda is going to increase. Am I done? That is going to increase the problem. Yet, this problem is going to, cannabis is well secured and it's not going to add any problem to the drug use. We told you about the security. Put in place.
Point the third speaker from the opposition side. So their main point was here convincing the private sector to invest the money in the government so that the cultivation of the plantation of cannabis can take place. But they never specified the negotiations that are going to be between the private sector and the government, and what percentage are going to be, what percentage profit that is going to be given to the private sector, and what percentage is going to be given to the government. They never specified the negotiations, how negotiations are going to be done, which is the main problem that we are facing here. We cannot even attack because we do not get well how the negotiation is going to be done. So the other thing that they've been talking of is they have said Nyagatare as the location of the cannabis they have been talking about. They're going to grow cannabis in Nyagatare. But we, according to the information that we get from the World Bank, which actually gets or receives the funds that are bought from the cannabis that being exploited by other countries that plant cannabis, they say that for cannabis to grow, it must require from the degrees Celsius that are about 23 and 24. And we are facing a problem that Nyagatare is not even among the places that Rwanda can get as a place of location of cannabis plantation, ladies and gentlemen. This shows that the government, before implementation of the plan, they did not even make research. So we are facing a problem like this. Security, we never know. They might also make wrong mistakes in security. So the other thing that we are asking ourselves is, how much money are going to pay? Are they going to pay to the people that are going to ensure security in the cannabis plantation? So as we know that 1 kilometer per square, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be equaling to 47.7 billion US dollars, ladies and gentlemen. And how much money are they going to pay to the people so that to avoid corruption, ladies and gentlemen? As I've seen in the resource, ladies and gentlemen, as my first speaker has explained this case study in the resource. They say greenhouses, they're going to use the greenhouses. They never specified where are the greenhouses, which are the greenhouses. Okay, if I will ask you, Jack, do you know any greenhouse in this country? So if you know, you can tell me. They never specified, ladies and gentlemen.
Point of information, please.
Is like this. So we have lost 100 million Rwandan US dollars that are took in the rehabilitation centers, for example, of some Rwanda. So we lose 100 million US dollars. So why can't we stay and stick to our status quo in this time, so as to maintain the money that is going to be attained in the future, and our people? We have shown that 50% of our youth is facing a problem of drug abuse, ladies and gentlemen. So if we can wait, so we are not actually against the idea. The idea is very good. It's raising our economy, but we must find a good timing. We are facing a high number of people, of youth, facing a problem of drug abuse, ladies and gentlemen. If we get and implement this plan of planting cannabis, I think the high rate will reduce. The rate of people consuming this cannabis is going to be reduced. And we have never seen the emergence of diseases that have been studied that cannabis can treat into our country. We are actually using this cannabis to export it in our country to become medical cannabis and then help the people from other countries. Regardless our people, regardless our youth, ladies and gentlemen. So this is actually, you can have your point of information.
You're talking about diseases, but we really explained it clearly that it is.
So I take my time, ladies and gentlemen, and according to they never showed. They were saying the reduction was done, but they never showed the percentage. What was the number of the people who got the cannabis, and what's the number right now, ladies and gentlemen? So we can stick to our status quo and maybe find other time we can carry this cannabis
and hospitals. Diseases and hospitals for abroad.
3 minutes to prepare.
Abroad.
First of all, the proposition said, give us a button. We should go the better chance to develop Rwanda. We should try to help the Rwanda. Like we
They
showed
did
them
not
on
do
the cell
anything
because now we
according to the parameters twabahaye zo kwerekana uburyo Rwanda will be a better Rwanda economically and socially byibagiwe twatsinze they didn't show us how this plan of theirs wibutse umva aba ari ikibazo parameters twatanze mu kutwereka
and also the money that's going to be
uburyo
improvement by the proposition said that the 47 million is right. We've been added back after saving our people and building a clear government. They also came like showing us that they're going to use the problem, they're going to use the technique that has been used to solve the poaching and in fighting against poaching. But actually, we did specify if like they're going to come from heaven and just show us what they're going to do. Actually, it is clear which way and which technique they're going to look how they're going to use. They also talked about the medical cannabis where they asked what is medical cannabis action cannabis, what is this action? When it's being activated with other stems, which they did prove to us that it's always going to be considered as a drug. Also, they also talked about the racist narrative, which we told them like how Lesotho is using has been affected by this program license, which has been which due to corruption and mismanagement has Lesotho find itself being exceeded by the racism which also made them like in a problem that still now they're still fighting against it, which is the first country to do it. They also showed us about Nyagatari's things and how it's going to be affected. We have to prove to them that Nyagatari is not a suitable area for the cultivation of this due to the World Bank information, to the information get from the World Bank that showed that Nyagatari is not a suitable area to practice this cultivation of cannabis. They also showed us about the greenhouse, which actually did define what is greenhouse, how it's going to be affected, because we are in the opposition left. They also showed about the very spectrum, where they tried to show us what is going to happen in the argument, which argument, what is going to happen, which was like closer to us, which is the also the production, which was
utangira kuri parameters twasetinze utangira kuri parameters twasetinze
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to show you how the opposition came with the plan. First of all, someone came and saying about the drug abuse, and their main point was solving the drug abuse. But we showed them how in the status quo there are even there are measures that are there to solve this drug abuse. Like we've seen the advertisements on the television, and we have the police dealing all this. So their plan is already in the status quo currently. Now we've said, after starting saying that the team that said the debate today is the team that shows greater chances of a developed Rwanda both socially and economically, ladies and gentlemen. And now one of their speaker, I think that's the speaker, came telling that we have to stick to the status quo. How will sticking to the status quo solve the economic problems that Rwanda is? How will this lead to the social development of the country? Now I wanted to ask that. I mean, that's what they said, wanted to refute that. And also they say that Nyagatare, they were complaining about Nyagatare. Our speaker said them that there are greenhouse gases. And for those greenhouse gases that they aren't going to be used in Nyagatare, they say that there's no example of greenhouse gases that are being used in Rwanda, but how they are at Agahozo, they are the Israel culture that's being done there. We've shown that to them, but I don't know if we thought, these guys, but sorry. And also they say the disease and the hospitals for the abroad, but we say that the income we'll get will be the solution to the most problems that will be used that are be facing in Rwanda, either in all the sectors, health sectors, all the sectors. This money, since it's a huge 3.345 billion, is the one that will be used. And also they said that in the adding and decreasing of the drug abuses in Rwanda, we told them that how our plan is going to be put safely, like there will be security. We've said all the mechanisms, which I think they didn't listen to. And also they said that money at any time, which they said that Rwanda has money, will get the money at any time. But we showed them that this is a selfishness, that because Rwanda has no money, we showed them how the pandemic has really affected Rwanda. And we say for Rwanda to come out of that depletion that's being there, we'll be doing this cannabis, which will bring a huge profit. They said about the investors, but ladies and gentlemen, it showed them how they are still investors in Rwanda. Already we have 4 investors, but they didn't hear that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll rest my case.
Going to give a few comments and the flow of how the debate was, and later on not now. We're going to give the verdict on who won. A few comments that I had. First things first is the proposition team comes and says the debate tonight is going to be about whether or not it's a good idea to plant medical cannabis and the effects that planting medical cannabis is. So to me, it felt like you gave this boundary, right? And because the first speaker on the negative time, the negative side did not say, well, this boundary is not nice, we don't like this boundary because of this and this, it meant that they went with the boundary. That means that everything that would have gone asking about anything other than why it's not a good idea or the effects that should have, you shouldn't necessarily have answered it. So if they brought in about the conditions, about the money that is going to be spent, I felt like it's about the how, not the why, right? It answers the how, not the why. And in your case, you were saying about this debate tonight is going to be about the why, right? So in that case, you should have just neglected it and said, let's bring back the reason why we're debating today. The reason why we're debating today is whether or not bringing cannabis is a good idea and the effect of bringing cannabis is going to be. So it felt like you gave yourself too much work when you had set a boundary that you have to stick with and maybe have more chances to have a better debate, right? And then you say that you talked about when they say that there's going to be drug abuse, and then you brought cannabis not being a drug that the teenagers consume. How does that solve the problem that they still consume cannabis in the wrong way? You don't want to bring a null point, like you don't want to bring a point that doesn't, like a point that doesn't solve anything, right? So you're saying it's not the only drug, but it's part of that. So it's part of the problems. Not the only problem, but it's part of the problems. And if you're not bringing a solution, then it's a null point. Like I won't consider this point because you didn't really give me a solution, right? If that makes sense, right? And then I'll go to the negative side. You, just as I said before, if they had brought this, they set this boundary about why or not they should bring cannabis and the effects of cannabis. If you didn't like the boundary, you should have said, well, this boundary is unfair because of this, because we have to look at it in this way, because if we looked at only this boundary, we're not looking at any other problems that maybe cannabis is solving, right? And also, you asked a lot of questions, but me, I'm like, Nine, what's the continuation? Why are you asking these questions? What's the use of you asking these questions? Like, why do you think this question matter in this debate? Because other than that, it's like, you leave it out there in the end. Maybe a good question, but because you don't elaborate on that question, it means that, Nine, like, you shouldn't even have asked in the first part if you are not going to continue. And then you talked about how other countries in Africa have brought cannabis, and then it had led to the misuse of it. But how do those countries relate to Rwanda? Right? So why do you think it's going to be the same in Rwanda? Like, because just as I said, Rwanda has the best policies, Rwanda has the best, all of those. Like, why do you think it won't work because it didn't work in other countries? And you talked about petrol. How does it relate to cannabis? If that makes sense, because I'm not sure I'm the only one, but it felt like you brought about how petrol was supposed to be used to bring about the. Yeah, which way I'm saying, how does petrol relate to cannabis in my point? Oh, okay, then that makes sense, sorry. And then you said something along the lines money is going to be there anytime. Well, some people are dying of poverty out here, so you know what, you say that money is going to be there anytime, like, money is still going to be there, less first of all people, but people are actually dying of poverty, and the reason why they're dying of poverty is because there is no money. So you don't want to say a statement that is not necessarily true. I don't remember how you said it correctly, but you say something along the lines, money is going to be there anytime, something like that. So you don't want, but that's not true. Money is not always there. It's okay. And then the greenhouses. About the greenhouses, I don't even know what the greenhouse is. So to me, maybe it's solving a certain solution, but I don't even know what the solution is because I don't know what greenhouses are, right? And I love the way that you asked about the greenhouses, but again, continue to why you're asking what are greenhouses. Tell it to me, like, what are greenhouses? How are greenhouses supposed to bring back the condition of bringing degrees in Yagatare, right? Like, yeah, if that makes sense. And I basically think that's it. Thank you so much.
What I would like to say, I love to say it in many debates because it's one of the things that the debaters don't tackle on, and it's really needed. Like, you guys come here and tell us about things, but in my opinion, because we are all persons, we are all people, and we don't have the same ears to hear things, everything you say. So this is what I'm trying to correct. Like, I'll not say thank you to everyone, or like you did this well, or you didn't do this well. There is something that I want you to tackle, like the speed of words, how you use things. In my very big opinion, and everyone's here, like, if I note every speaker that here, I didn't even quote a very healthy of anything they said, I would find them. So next time, if you're going to do this debate, maybe it will be in another tournament, I want you to tackle on something which is speed, like the speed you say things. We're not coming here to rap, we're coming here to debate. And when you're coming here to debate, I think everyone is there to hear what you're supposed to be speaking, and the judge is supposed to quote everything that you're saying, not like at least like everything, but at least the 75% of everything you're saying should be noted by the judge, and the judge is not going to hear that when you're rapping, like saying the words in a very big speed. And that is that, so next time correct that too. In going to the action plan, like from the proposition side, like we came here to debate about the motion, which I think the very big thing from this was the cannabis being the case, right? So one thing that I quoted from you guys is that you were only counting on the money that is coming from it, like the proposition side. You were only like noticing the money, like you didn't even tell us what was, like, according to this one, she said also about the greenhouses. In my opinion, I don't even know what the greenhouses are. So, and also the next thing I want you to tell us is about the things that this cannabis is going to solve. Like if cannabis is going to be used for making medicines, for manufacturing medicines, then which are those medicines? What are they going to cure? Like the main purpose that we have here is like being the money being the case or the issue, but also what is cannabis going to bring? What are the medicines? What is it going, like, I think I heard it from the other speaker where they said, what is the emergent disease that we're going to solve? So like here, if you came with a plan, I think maybe next time, please try to even tell us, like if we bring cannabis, like if we control the rates, maybe like the mental problems needs to be cured in this and this. So this is what you need to solve. And if we plan cannabis by this, that means that medicine is going to solve that problem, like in an example, the mental thing. So, and also, I think that will be the case. So congratulations to everyone, because in my opinion, making it till today, and still we have 2 teams when you have studied with more than 16 teams or more, being here is some sort of an advantage. So congratulations to everyone, and the one who's going to win, congratulations also. And I wish you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Okay, let me start actually by saying congratulations to all of you. It's been a really tough journey, I know. You won a lot of rounds for you guys to be here, and it was a nice experience for you. So, actually, congratulations for both of you. And I would like actually to actually say something, and I want first of all to begin with what was actually your rules, guys, in the debate, right? So the proposition have the actually to bring the change, Like you are actually advocating to have cannabis being implemented in Rwanda, planted, in Rwanda, and then that's actually you need a change, right? We don't have cannabis right now, and you should have it, right? And you bring your reasons and everything, right? And again, coming to the side of opposition, your job is actually to oppose them and prove them wrong on anything you want, right? You may say maybe the reason is a problem, the money is a problem, or anything, right? So it's up to you to say, if you believe money is a big problem, let's talk with money. If you believe only the reasons to existence of the plan is a problem, let's go with that, right? So I will be focusing on that just to win the debate, right? And then again, actually I've been saying a lot of things, but I want to tackle on some of the problems that I've seen, right? Especially today, allow me to jump into the last speaker opposition, right? So you guys, you were the last, right? Placid, right? You were the last, right? So that means after you, there is no one who's coming back to actually to speak anything, right? Right? Exactly. So, and then at the end of the day, although you were last, you give out a lot of questions like, how is the negotiation going to be done, and what is the percentage which is going to be done, right? Like you give. No, I'm actually saying. Hold on for a second. I'm actually saying the questions that you give a lot of questions in your speech, right? And the questions you give are really good questions, and you were the one who gave the questions. Differently with the two current speakers, right? So that means the question was the first time to be heard in the debate, right? And then my problem is, if you understand with the last speaker, right? As you understood it in the last speaker, that means after you, there's another speaker that's going to come and have a vote, right? So that means if you leave there a lot of questions, nobody's be there to come back and answer to your questions, right? So although all the questions could be good and it could be really good, but me as a judge, I can consider those questions to the reasons to why, because they won't be given a chance to reply to your questions, right? Although they may have the answers, right? So your questions are really brilliant. So I would suggest some of the days your teams are sitting together. If you have a brilliant question, please don't be selfish. Pass it to the rest one that's going to come after you, and you deal with the rest, right? And I would also like to go to 2 points of information that you guys have raised, right? Yeah. So it's currently, it seems as if both of the teams are equivalent clear what to do in reply speeches. Why am I saying this? Let me start with the proposition. The reply speech from proposition, you came on answering the question from the third speaker opposition. Like what questions? It was about greenhouse effect. Whereby you answer to that, and you give an example that Adazo Shalom already has that, right? So that means you're actually answering the third speaker's proposition questions to a reply speech, right? And again, the whole of the reply speech is not about telling us what happened in the debate and what should you take the debate. And the big loss to that is that nothing is new that is supposed to be brought in a reply speech, right? Yet you actually brought something new as you answer into the question that I've already asked before, right? So you should have actually gone with why should we give you the debate, not to the reasons why to the answers to the questions they have already been given out. And then again, this already has also seen on the side of proposition, whereby proposition through their plan, they bought, I think, of punching, they were like, back in the days, people coming to the parks and everything, so that was the method through which we have, waiting the people to come to the plantation of cannabis and everything, right? So they mentioned that in the first speech, and then surprisingly, the last, in the process, in the reply speeches from opposition, they actually asked more about the punching. Is it punching? I don't know. The word, yeah, that word. I'm sorry, it's a bit to pronounce. So that word. So it's like you asked more about it, and then it actually comes. I believe you also heard that, right? And you actually brought it into the reply speeches, which I believe would have been a better thing to be brought in the middle of the debate, and they continue up with it. And let me actually also go to the things of greenhouse, right? So that means you guys ask them questions about where we're going to implement everything, right? And then they answer a question, and that's what they say. They didn't actually say as if it's a confirmation it's Nyagatale. They're saying Nyagatale as one of the places. And then afterwards, you guys bring in a Nyagatale is not a favorable place. That was really good thing. And then again, they answered that there is a greenhouse effect, and they stop from there, right? So from there, I want to let you guys, we as a judges, we're not debating with you guys, right? So whatever you say, if they say the solutions to that, it's a greenhouse effect. Although I am the judge, I know that the greenhouse effect will not be the solutions to that. If you guys are going to bring it up and you stop the conversation from there, me as a judge, I'll take that as an answer, right? So that means as a judge, you see, you actually brought this argument and it goes through this and this and this. Where does it stop? Stop from here, right? So as if you give birth to a kid, that means you have to take your kid straight away up to the time maybe he died because of the age, not the sickness, right? That means you have to prevent every sickness, right? If you say a greenhouse effect is a problem, and they say, no, if they bring up greenhouse effect problem, yet you guys still know that it's reflecting, it's actually displaying your point of Nyagatela and everything, by then it's supposed to continue like, how is it going to solve everything, right? If we put in Nyagatela, how will it allow cannabis to grow, right? So from there, as a judge, that means you actually keep adding the life to your argument, to your kid that you have already given birth to, right? So, and then again, and then I believe, yeah, that's it from my side. And all of you guys did a very good work. That was really impressive, right? And let's the best in morning. Thank you.